Welcome back, everybody. This is Eric here with Iraq Veteran 8888. Today I've got another Gun Gripe episode for you, and we've got a couple of special guests. You might remember Matt from Meet the Pressers. I've got Klint here as well, so Matt and Klint from Meet the Pressers. Great group of guys here. We've had Matt on the channel before, but now we've got Klint in, which is great. So we've got the whole crew together, and we thought that it would be a great opportunity to have a chat about some of Cuomo's executive orders regarding the Second Amendment and some of his gun violence initiatives. We're going to dive into some of the details, and of course we'll dive into many a rabbit hole as we get into this video. But before we get too far into today's video, I'd like to take a moment to thank our friends at Sonoran Desert Institute for supporting Gun Gripes. They've got some great gunsmithing programs if you're wanting a career in firearms technology. They accept all different types of financial aid. So if you're a military veteran, you got your GI Bill and whatnot, you can definitely get that to work for you. Check them out. They got wonderful programs. They're great people. Excellent distance learning programs in the field of gunsmithing technology. So check them out, Sonoran Desert Institute. So let's dive into this a bit.
I'm sure as heck needed in New York.
Well, I don't know.
You know, there's a bill they have in New York that's going to be banning body armor for civilians.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
So just so our viewers know, you live in New York, upstate,
yeah.
and you live in PA.
Pennsylvania and Pittsburgh.
Western.
Yes, okay. So you provide some unique perspective to this particular gripe because you live in New York.
Yeah.
So that's obviously, this is very close to home for you. It's in your backyard, essentially. And one of the things that I see get thrown around when it comes to New York, this is related to this, but maybe just something to mention, is all of us that don't live in New York, we always look at like New York City as being like a completely different planet, and then you've got the rest of the state of New York that's just a regular people. And it's so weird how within our society we see that these big cities don't seem to represent the values of all the people that live in the state, right? Like you look at the large cities in California, and when you think California, you think them being anti-2A, or you think Pennsylvania and them being anti-2A. You think, oh, well, the entire state is full of anti-gun people, but that's not true. It's only like the large cities and the in the more blue-controlled areas where they tend to just openly have open hunting season for the Second Amendment. Why is it like that?
Back to basic, you said something that made me think of that. Back at basic training in Fort Sill, Oklahoma, back in the 90s. So when I say it was from New York, people are like, oh, New York? So I know exactly what you mean. Like, I'm like, why do you think that that's a... Because they think it from the city. Right. I'm like, no, I live upstate where there's cows. There's like, there's no cows in New York. I'm like, yeah, there is. So, I hit that home. When it comes to this governor, it's insane. It's crazy. I mean, between the ballistics vest bill that they have, trying to keep citizens from having that, SAFE Act version 1. Now we got bail reform, where they're tying law enforcement and judges' hands from being able to do any kind of enforcing the law, if you will, defund the police. There is actually a bill that went forward where they want to make all peace officers no longer be armed. So it'd be probation, parole, corrections, park police, court officers, no guns. The only people that could have guns are police officers.
Beat cops.
Right, yeah. It's insanity. Now we've got this executive order that he just declared and said it be done, and I'm calling it SAFE Act version 2. Because he's not pushing it through the legislature. He's just saying, okay, we got a disaster. It's gun violence.
How does that make you feel?
It makes me mad because this is just a way that they're going to redirect more resources of law enforcement who are already short-staffed. People are retiring, getting out of the industry because of all the, defund the police and whatnot. But then on top of that, a lot of the stuff is smoke and mirrors. You say bail reform, let's stop having people go to jail for drugs. Okay, well, at whatever level, but there's only a small list of things they can be put in jail. When we had Jeff Gonzalez up in upstate New York in September, one of the cops from Syracuse police officers said they arrested a guy 4 times in one night before they could actually detain him the 4th time. So it's like, oh, yep, you did that. You shouldn't have done that. Here's your ROR. Give him a little slip to go see the judge. Released on your own recognizance. Go about your way. And then he went and committed another crime.
But if you get caught walking around in the city of New York with a gun and you don't have their special evil permit that they require, which they probably don't just give out to anybody.
No,
you're
very
the devil.
Small. Or you just get caught with an 8 rounds in your 10-round magazine. That's a misdemeanor crime. Wow. That's SAFE Act 1, baby.
So when we look at this, now let's get into SAFE Act 2. All right, it says that they're going to invest $138.7, that's a very specific number, million dollars in intervention, prevention, and jobs programs to engage at-risk youth and get young people off the streets. You look at all of these feel-good type of things, right? When they write this stuff up, they write it in a way that pulls at your heartstrings a bit and makes you think, well, what's so wrong about that? What's the issue there? Well, there's certainly, what they're going to put this money towards is certainly not a bipartisan view of the situation. It is totally just money that they can pump into anti-gun initiatives and to more strictly go after the Second Amendment. And of course, it's gonna affect the people that need to have guns the most, as your average law-abiding people that are just trying to live their lives and be normal. It really puts a big damper on the average people being able to protect themselves, and does absolutely nothing for crime. And we've talked about this a million times. Criminals don't obey laws. Criminals don't care what this initiative is. They don't care about what the law is. They're going to do whatever they're going to do. So by removing the tools of average people to be able to protect themselves, or by creating such an incredibly draconian environment for you to even obtain a permit, not that a permit should even be necessary.
Very true.
But be that as it may, that's the system, and we have to play the game, right? But be that as it may, to have to go through all of that difficulty to even get the permit in the first place. I mean, how hard is it to get a gun permit in New York?
Well, it varies based on in the city, almost non-existent. I mean, thank God for Leosa and stuff, where I could carry into the city. But as an average citizen who doesn't have a pistol license, you're screwed. Good point. I was going to SHOT Show, this was years ago, and I had a connecting flight in New York City, and I had a bunch of guns on me. I get there, and the two airlines didn't change luggage, so I had to get my luggage from the one. I went to the next airline, went to check in. Hey, I got guns, firearms to declare, like we're supposed to do. And the guy looks at me and goes, please tell me you're law enforcement. And I'm like, well, yeah, but why does that matter? I'm oblivious to this. I mean, imagine just a normal, average person who's got guns legally that was not trying to do anything nefarious.
As soon as they grab that suitcase, they're a felon.
They're a felon. And I said, yeah, I am, but why? He goes, because you're in LaGuardia, you're in New York City. I'm like, oh shit, I am. Right? And then he goes, we got to call Port Authority, and they got to come out and they got to check it. And they checked my badge, my ID. They took all that down, serial number, make, model, caliber. They made me physically pull the gun out and show each gun was clear. And it wasn't like off to the side in a room. It was right there in front of everybody else that was on the plane.
If you're this
they want to make a spectacle of it.
Yeah, but you're this possible dangerous person, and they're allowing you to handle a gun freely in the middle of an airport.
Right. Yeah. Show me that it's clear. Okay.
Yeah.
Man, it's crazy. I've checked guns quite a few times traveling as well, and I fly out of Atlanta here. Well, I'm not gonna comment on. I'm not flying anymore right now with all this crap going on. But look, I have checked guns before too, and yeah, it is kind of strange. Like I remember going through, and I had 2 ARs with thermals on them, suppressors. I mean, we're talking some decked out hunting rigs, right? And I opened up that case, and the look of horror on that lady's face, if I could bottle that look, like that is the anti-gun paradigm. Like that look that she had totally said everything that she needed to say without even saying a single word. But what's weird is, once we had a little bit of a conversation and she understood, she was just completely like, oh, okay, you're going to hunt. And
what you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah. It's like, but they allow what they don't know and don't understand to define
and to feed that
their overall thought process without even having the facts to understand what's what. People have a preconceived, notation that guns are just instantly negative, and they've been taught to associate them with negative things.
Yeah, and this is a perfect case. This is called a gun violence disaster emergency. And to that fellow American that's largely uneducated about things, they see that as, oh my God, that's a horrible thing. And that promotes that narrative. I mean, conversely to that, when we see things like this, they call it like the Duckies and Bunnies Act or something. But it's this horrible thing that just completely destroys people's rights, but they'll call it something very favorable. Right. Unfortunately, our fellow citizens, many are very easily swayed by the media and these types of words like that.
Words mean things.
Words
specifically chosen words by politicians.
Yeah, and it is a lot of pandering too. I mean, when you look at, we're going to get into some stuff with PA as well for those of you that want to definitely make sure you tune in, stay tuned for this. But when you look at the way that all of this stuff happened, let's just say with COVID, for instance. Now, I don't want to dive too far in the weeds on this, but let's just say that.
Did you get a shot? I might need to put a mask on.
Many people, okay. do not obviously agree with Cuomo's handling of the situation. Now, I'm not gonna name names or point fingers or anything like that. Yep. But let's just say that a lot of people in New York are not alive now. Okay, and that's not a good thing. Yeah. And you know, many people feel that he's grossly mismanaged the situation. Now you see this guy that mismanaged the situation now wants to mismanage another situation, like wants to do more of the same, like has already shown his clear and gross incompetence.
And I think a lot of that's the shell game with him. Like, you know, he's being held accountable for that. To me, it looks like the AG wants his job. So of course she says, oh, you know, they're circling the wagon now because of all the things that are happening with the sexual harassment and COVID, the nursing homes. So now they're like, oh, you know, there's a chink in his armor, I can get him. And they're doing that. And her thought process, well, you know, I want to run for governor. And I think this might be part of that. Okay, I got to put my name back up there low. Look at me, and put my name back up there on the top of the list. So that way now people, you know, don't pay attention to my sexual harassment stuff over here and look at this. Everybody's concerned about protecting our kids and youth and partnering with the John Jay College of Criminal Justice. You know?
It's nothing more than a red herring.
Yeah, smoke and mirrors.
It's smoke and mirrors.
It's a distracting technique.
Yep.
Yeah, it is. So now a lot of people would ask, okay, we'll segue into Pennsylvania really quick since you're from Pennsylvania, Clint. Now that's interesting. Now, a lot of people tend to say, well, I live in a really anti-gun state, or at least there's the perception that it's anti-gun. They think, all right, well, I live in what I perceive to be an anti-gun state, so why should I pressure my elected officials to go to a vote on this particular issue when, all right, some anti-gun governor is sitting there that we know is not going to sign off on the bill. Why should we even bother? Well, the answer, and what I think Clint is going to lay out some of the facts too, is that it's important to have a recorded vote on certain things, right? It's important to know where your elected officials stand. If something never goes up to a vote, you never know. There's no recorded record of, you know, what exactly is going on. So there's actually a constitutional carry bill on the table in PA, correct?
In both houses.
Okay.
We have Senate Bill 565 from Senator Dush, and we have House Bill 659. Both have made it through judiciary, and it was ready to be. Actually, matter of fact, we were pretty sure it was going to go up to a floor vote, and then it got stalled. And the reason is internal bickering. You know, the sponsor, the author of it, and the House, the leadership fought over a farm bill years ago, and now he doesn't want to bring it up to a vote because of some old animosity. It's like third grade stuff that takes place, and
a lot of that going around.
Yeah, but right now we have both of those bills in a position where they could be voted upon when they come back from their break. And a lot of people in the Second Amendment community in Pennsylvania are like, well, why put the time, effort, and energy into it? Because we know that Governor Wolf is very, very likely to veto it. And we might have a veto-proof majority. I think it's a little optimistic to say, but the bottom line is we need to get those votes on record. You know, you have a lot of people in the legislature in Pennsylvania, especially, but across the country, who play a good game. You know, they say, "Oh, I'm all for the Second Amendment, 100%." And we have no way to tell that. If a Second Amendment vote never comes up and they never vote, there's no way to hold their feet to the fire. Right. So we need to get these things pushed through so that we can actually see where they vote. See the people who are actually pro-Second Amendment so we can support them moving forward. And the ones that are just talking a talk, now they put their vote down, and now we know where they actually stand, and then we can fight them come election time.
Good strategy.
Yeah, but you got to hold their feet to the fire, because if they never have to vote on that issue, they can say all they want and never have to prove it.
Yeah, and that makes me think of like the president's impeachment. And I was thinking, like, why are they going with this? They're not going to impeach him. They don't have the votes to impeach him. But that makes sense on the other side of the aisle, where they probably did that to be able to get the vote down, right? Have them say, okay, yes, I'm voting.
So they know
this
who
way,
their
but
true allies are.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's terrible that politics do that to people, and that they do it to us, and that they separate us in those types of ways in terms of, you know, the way we look at things. Yep. It's a very interesting point to say, okay, well, you know, the GOP was, you know, literally threatening to throw Thomas Massie out of the Republican Party over him simply just wanting a recorded vote. Yeah. Thomas Massie's also been a big proponent of wanting all of this pork out of these bills and wanting each bill to be voted on as an individual measure.
That'd be great.
And I think that's really smart. I mean, how can you possibly know someone's voting record when they just vote yay or nay on some giant encompassing package that has several bills in it?
Right.
How do you know what they really supported versus what they really just turned a blind eye to in order to please their constituency, and they didn't really vote with their conscience or with, you know, what they really wanted as an individual? You know, they think along party dogmas and not along the personal views and principles that make them the person that they are. And Massey is one of the guys who almost got thrown out of the Republican Party for just simply wanting a recorded vote. And I think that tells you really how scary politics in this country have gotten, where, you know, someone is afraid to go on record. Well, so the thing is, when we look at politics, when you look at, all right, who you're going to vote for, this person, that person, the letter beside someone's name is irrelevant, right?
Yes.
Right.
But
Very
what
true.
you can look at, if they've been, let's just say, in government for some time, you can certainly look at their voting record.
Yeah.
So if you know, all right, if someone's trying to get you to vote for them and they're saying, I'm pro-gun. Okay, well, words are cheap, right? I just said I'm pro-gun just now. Do you believe me? Well, I hope after this point you know I am. I've been in this long enough.
Yeah.
You know whose side I'm on. I'm on the people's side. I'm on the Second Amendment side. However, in the political world, anyone can just say, yeah, I'm pro-gun.
Right.
Yeah, vote for me. I'm pro-gun,
Yep.
right? But if there's a voting record that backs up what they say, and let's just say that there's been, you know, a couple of pro-gun bills, you know, put on the table, and they voted yay for those pro-gun bills. Oh, even if those bills didn't make it to the governor's desk to get signed off, it doesn't mean now that at least there's not some record that says, hey, here I am. Look, it may not have made it through the legislative process all the way like we wanted it to,
Right.
but we tried and we went on record. Here we are. This is my name in the hat, right? John Hancock was one of the oldest signers of the Declaration of Independence, and his signature is the largest signature on the Declaration of Independence. He wanted to make sure that they could read it all the way from England. That's why it's so large. So it's important that you let your thoughts and feelings be known. If you're in government and you're one of these people out here trying to legislate things or whatever, pass bills, fine. Put it on record. Put your name on the form. Like, write your name. Enter your name into the halls of history so that people know where you took a stand.
Understand? Yeah, it's a litmus test. You know, having that litmus test. You know, I always say in the classes and stuff, as far as, you know, politicians, do as I say, not as I do. We hear that all the time. But as instructors, do as I say and as I do. When it comes to the safety rules, making sure that, you know, people are safe with a firearm. You're handling the gun. You want to make sure that you're handling it correctly, because you want to say to handle it correctly. You want to handle it correctly so your students learn correctly.
So what brings you guys all the way from PA and New York down to my neck of the woods here in Georgia? You guys have been going around making a run of training regiments, some training classes you've been doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I
Tell folks about it.
Came down to Alabama to run a USCCA DSF instructor course that's part of the PDN tour. It was one of my personal dates in the Personal Defense Network training tour.
Okay.
And then Matt came down and we co-taught USCCA Concealed Carry and Home Defense Fundamentals instructor course in Marietta, Georgia, at Georgia Firing Line. Really great facility to check out.
Awesome.
And
So it
then,
ended up working out well. You
Yeah.
guys were in the area, so
Oh,
we were able
yeah.
to. So we're going to be cutting some more videos with these guys, and we hope that, you know, you've enjoyed this concept. We love having guests on Gun Gripes. You know, trust me, I know that people love to hear Chad and us bicker. Chad and I bicker back and forth a little bit, but sometimes it's nice to get some fresh perspective, and we always want to make sure that with Gripes that we are doing as much as we can for not just the, you know, looking at the federal legislation, but also these state level fights are super, super, super important. People tend to overlook the local battles. They think, oh, well, my city council vote, that doesn't matter. We don't got to vote for those people. But then you look at a city council position, and it could be a matter of 40 votes or even one vote. All right. Our local city council election was decided by one vote. So don't think that your vote doesn't matter, and don't think that local politics, state politics, and all of that doesn't eventually trickle down. It does, right? So it's important for us to be engaged in every fight that we can. You know, if you guys can support FPC, you know, I support GOA and FPC. I donate monthly to both of them. They're really good people. They're doing a lot of great work fighting for our rights. FPC, and they keep that lawsuit printer going brrr, and spitting out lawsuits left and right. But that's what it takes. Yeah. They recognize, okay, states like PA, states like New York, that those battlegrounds, when it comes to getting the lower courts to decide yay or nay on a given issue, they know that those battleground fights at that fundamental level can and will eventually affect federal laws somewhere down the line.
FPC's done some great work in Pennsylvania, and I'm the second vice president of Firearms Owners Against Crime in Pennsylvania, and that's our Second Amendment organization.
Good.
And we've worked very well with FPC, and they've come in. We've worked in tandem. We did some amicus briefs with them, and there was we work heavily with Joshua Prince. He represents FOAC as well as the Allegheny County Sportsman's League, and he does quite a bit of work with FPC as well. So a fantastic organization.
So what would be y'all's advice to Pennsylvanians and New Yorkers that are watching to combat these?
Talk to the politicians. Vote for good politicians. Like we said earlier, look at how they vote. If they're voting against something that just doesn't make sense, like in New York State, 7 rounds. You can only put 7 rounds in your 10-round magazine, yet a bad guy is not going to pay attention to the law. The bad guy is going to put a 10-round, full 30-round magazine when they go rob a bank, right?
Well, they say, wait, before I go in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Take that illegal gun in, but make sure the magazine's legal. So, look at how they vote, and then hold them accountable. Hold their feet to the fire. Meet with them. Talk to them. Respectfully, because they're not going to let you in the door. You're not going to be able to talk to them. You're not going to be able to vet them, if you will. If you're crazy about it, we're crazy about it. We're very passionate about it, but we want
passionate is a great word.
Passion's good. Passion's good.
We want to make sure that we're respectful, so that way at least they look at us and they don't just roll us off as crazy.
I think it's important first to educate yourself about the people who are running for office or who are in office. Just because they have an R next to their name does not mean that they're pro-gun. And just because they have a D next to the name, well, a lot of anti-gun people are Democrat, but there still are some pro-gun Democrats out there. They're few and far between. It's of an older generation. But really learn what they are about. I'll say in Pennsylvania, our red flag law was written by Republican Todd Stevens. Luckily, it hasn't made it anywhere, but he's the one that penned that legislation. So educate yourself about them and then get in their business. Meet with them, talk to them. The ones that are actually pro-gun, tell them you're there to support them. Ask them how you can help them advance their legislation and fight the fight. And don't be afraid to sit down and talk to the anti-gun guys. Go into their office, be a pain in their ass. Sit down and listen to them. Try your arguments. You're not going to make them any more anti-gun, but you'll learn what the talking points are. What I found is all the anti-gun legislators all speak from the same script. When you learn that script and then you sit down with someone who's not necessarily all the way over there anti-gun, but they lean that way, when they start going down that script and you know it, you can get them off the script and they don't know what to do. And you may have an opportunity to educate them and bring them to the side of liberty.
Great point.
And if you don't, then, well, we'll do what we can to get them the hell out of there come next election.
But at least you know who your friends and foes are.
Yeah. That's right. Some quick housekeeping before we end today's video. I would just like to mention that right now, in the midst of this particular video, right now, let's see, it is 12:43 p.m. and the date is 7/12/2021. So right now, on this moment, David Chipman's confirmation is still in the air, and to validate one of Klint's points that he so astutely put here, some of the Democrats are on the fence about voting yay for David Chipman to confirm him in the Senate. One of those is Joe Manchin, and Joe Manchin is one of the strange outliers. We're not going to dive into it because we've already done some videos, and we might actually do maybe another video talking about it. But there are pro-gun Democrats, believe it or not. They're probably the exception, not the rule, but do not discount a Democrat politician just because you think that because there's a D next to their name that you can't reason with them. There are some good ones out there. And right now, some of the good ones, 5 Democrats in total, are so undecided that now the overall thought process, let's not count our chickens before they hatch, but the overall thought process is that his chance of being confirmed at this point is likely slim to none. Now let's not put all our eggs in one basket, but just say that if you live in West Virginia or some of these states where these people are on the fence, support them where they deserve to be supported. Articulate your point well and professionally, and let them know how you feel, and you may be surprised what they do.
If I could touch on that comment real quickly, with Manchin specifically, you know, whether Manchin is pro-gun or anti-gun really doesn't matter in this case, because if he votes anti-gun where he is from, it's going to be very hard for him to be reelected.
Again, it's record at that
And
point.
as we know, you know, a lot of politicians, they work very hard to become reelected politicians. Yeah. And whether he's pro-gun or not really doesn't matter, because if he votes anti-gun, it's going to be very unlikely he will get reelected the next time because of the population.
Record.
So when we as the people get into their business and tell them how we feel, even if they don't necessarily agree with us, they will come over to the side of what the majority squeaks. You know, the squeaky wheel gets the grease.
That's right.
So if we just keep sending them those emails, make those phone calls, take a letter and put a stamp on it and put it in the mail, it has a great deal of efficacy.
The one thing you can always count on is that they very much want to be reelected.
Yeah.
And
use that as your weapon in this case.
And make sure that you're also reaching out to those politicians, those 5 Democrats like that you mentioned, and say, you know, please give them your support and such, because you want to make sure that they understand that you're behind them, and we don't want the other side pulling them back to voting the way we don't want them to vote.
I think it's important for them to be visible as having allies in the Second Amendment community when they deserve it. So if those 5 Democrats vote against a very terrible person that everyone in the Second Amendment community doesn't deal with, now, okay, will their future voting record say different? That's up for speculation. Does their previous voting records support that? Who knows? But at least they understand that we will support them when they deserve it, and we will call them out when they don't, when they deserve it too. So just something to think about. Guys, thanks so much for tuning in to today's video. Make sure you check out Meet the Pressers. They've got a great YouTube channel, and their podcast is wonderful. There you go. Shameless plug. Shameless plug. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Klint.
Thank you.
We've got many more videos on the way. We're going to cut some more, so you'll see some of these popping up. We're going to go over a couple of other subjects. This will probably be the first one, because this is still, the whole thing with Cuomo is still kind of hot subject right now. So you'll probably see this video pop up. But have a great day. Big thank you to all the folks that support us on Patreon. If you'd like to support Meet the Pressers, go check out their Patreon as well. You know, you can support them directly if you wish. We've got some great merchandise over on Ballistic Ink. If you want to go pick up a t-shirt, those are ways that you can support the channel directly. We've also got some great man cans for sale, tons of awesome boxes we put together for you guys. So if you want to support us, that's how you can do so. Have a great day. Many more videos on the way. And make sure you go check out and subscribe to Meet the Pressers. Matt and Klint here. Great group of guys. Highly recommended.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Have a good one.
Stay safe.